Have you been thinking to move to the United States and specifically Atlanta? Oh, then this video is for you because I moved from Canada to Atlanta 1 year ago. In this video, I'm going to share my 5 surprises. All right, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Kane, I'm the Silver Bachelor. This channel is 100% dedicated to dating advice for older guys. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification button because we drop a video every day. All right, my 5 surprises from moving from Canada to the United States. All right, listen, I need to explain why I moved to the United States, and then I'll reveal the 5 surprises. Neither good or bad, just surprises, okay? So, I moved to the United States from Ottawa, Canada, a little bit over 1 year ago, and I moved here for my work. I'm a marketing executive for an Italian HVAC manufacturer, and at the time before I moved, I was married. So I'm now divorced. I've been single for 2 years, and my ex-wife, this was the big deal breaker in the marriage, is my ex-wife, she did not want to move anywhere. And in Ottawa, Canada, it's a small city, 5 hours northeast of Toronto. I was working for an HVAC manufacturer there. There's not a lot of manufacturing in Ottawa, all right? All the manufacturing and the jobs that I would qualify for would either be in Toronto or in Vancouver, Canada. So I said to her, look, I now have a new boss at the time in the company I was working for, and that guy didn't like me because I took like half his job away. But I was nice to this guy, and I never got fired. But I told her, I said, look, I feel like I'm on borrowed time. We need to do something, and we need to move. I was pretty much the breadwinner, and she didn't want to move to Toronto, didn't want to move to Vancouver. And then finally, I get this job, and they said, look, if we hire you, we want you to eventually move to Atlanta. And so I'm like, yeah, yes. So I end up telling her, look, I'm moving to Atlanta and you're either coming or you're not. So that was the end of that. And I had to work out of Canada. So I have an L1A visa. That is a managerial executive visa where basically they will transfer you from one entity or one subsidiary in that country that you live to another subsidiary in a different country. So that's how I got my visa. So I had to work for the Canadian subsidiary for 1 year as part of the qualification process. And then after that year, the lawyer did some paperwork, and then they basically transferred me over from the company in Canada to the company in the United States. Excuse me. So that's what happened. I've been here for almost 1 year, and I drove a U-Haul 22 hours specifically, from Ottawa, Canada down to Atlanta because my work gave me a relocation allowance. And I thought, well, I'm gonna spend as little of that money as possible because my boss said, hey, we'll just give you a chunk of money and you spend it how you want. So I'm like, well, what's the cheapest way for me to get to Atlanta? Rent a U-Haul, yeah. So I drove a U-Haul 22 hours. Then I went back to Canada a couple weeks later to get my car and did the same damn drive again back to Atlanta, okay? So it was very specific in terms of what I could bring. So I couldn't bring any weed, I couldn't bring any animals, of course. Well, I could have brought animals, but I couldn't bring all my plants. I had 9 plants because they're in soil and seeds and all this stuff. So I had to basically, and alcohol, I had to leave everything behind, come to Atlanta. So I moved here, no family, no friends, no pets, okay? First 3 months were pretty challenging, just being alone and everything and in the city. But all right, let me just get into these 5 things, these surprises. Excuse me. Okay, number 1, obviously, elephant in the room, guns, right? Georgia is a red state. It's blue in Atlanta, but it's a red state. And what I mean by that is it's basically a Republican Party state where that party, if you're not familiar with this, is in support of owning guns, okay? So true story, here I am, it's like a month in or whatever, and I have a date with this girl. This was the second date, and we were gonna go to this cocktail lounge. And she says, hey, why don't I Uber to your place? Well, yeah, Uber to your place, and then we will go from there to your place to the cocktail lounge because she left her car at her sister's. All right, fine. So she comes to my place, and I was just about to get the Uber, and she goes, "Oh shoot, do you mind if I leave something in your apartment?" So I'm like, "Okay." So she comes up to my apartment. She reaches into her purse, pulls out the gun, boom, puts it on the counter. I'm like, "Oh, is that loaded?" And she started laughing, and she's like, "Why would I have a gun in my purse if it's not loaded?" So in Georgia, if you're a resident, green card, whatever, you can own concealed weapons, man. Yeah, you can have these guns tucked in in your pants, a woman in her purse, whatever, in your glove compartment, concealed shit here. I say shit because it's kind of bonkers. You can't have that kind of stuff in Canada. You cannot have anything concealed in Canada unless you're like an investigator, special forces, or something like that. And even to have, what's the word? Where you're not concealed, the opposite, where you're showing it. Open carry. When you're open carry is not allowed in Canada. Like, you can't just sit there at a bar with a holster and your gun just right. So open carry is a thing here, concealed carry is a thing here, and it just took a little time to get used to it. If anything, now my mindset has changed in the sense of if I'm at a restaurant and something goes down at that restaurant, the chances of other people having firearms to defend the situation is pretty damn high. So yes, there's shootings in, and I'll get to that in one of my points, in Atlanta. But so number one is the guns. Number two, healthcare is fucking crazy terrible here compared to Canada. I'm gonna give you two examples. One of my work colleagues, I went into the office and I see him and he's got bandage all on his finger. So I'm like, "Dude, what happened?" And he says, "Oh, well, I was cutting up some cheese and I sliced my finger open." I was like, "Oh shit." And he's like, "Yeah, I needed 6 stitches. So then I look at him and I said, just out of curiosity, because my work has like a healthcare plan. I said, "Were you out of pocket to fix your finger at all? Like out of pocket with money to fix your finger?" He's like, "Yeah, it cost me $1,500. I'm like, "What? What do you mean $1,500? So our plan, we have a $2,500 healthcare deductible. You have to spend out of your own damn pocket $2,500 until you get reimbursed. Canada, in the exact same situation, you don't have to pay anything. Okay, same money in Canada versus here, that I was earning was 42% tax in Canada, same money. And then at the time when I moved over here, 30% tax. So that's a difference in the same money that you're making. I mean, the tax depending on how much you earn, but I'm just saying, in my example, as a difference between Canada, you're gonna pay like 12% more in tax. However, it's dollar for dollar. So like you buy a coffee for $5 here in the United States at $5 US dollars. Canada, that same coffee is $5 Canadian. So there's a 30% difference of Canadian money being 30% less. So, I mean, you're still better off, obviously, in the United States with the currency stuff. So number two, the healthcare. Oh, the other example with the healthcare. Before I moved to Atlanta, right? I was at this Christmas party for my work, and we had the party inside a hotel. And the evening was winding down. It was getting close to midnight. I decided to go to bed. So I walk towards the elevator. I get in the elevator. I hold the button for a couple that comes in the elevator. Elevator starts to move. All of a sudden the dude, and I thought maybe he was drunk, I wasn't sure. All of a sudden the dude collapses in the elevator and fucking smashes his head against the elevator door on the inside. And wife is like freaking out. I'm like, "What the hell just happened? Is he okay?" and stuff. And so she says, "Yeah, I think he's gonna be fine." So they got off on their floor. And then I continued to go up to my floor. Something just didn't sit well with me. So I decided to hit the elevator button to go back to their floor just in case. And sure shit, I get out of the elevator and she's screaming. I'm like looking for them. I couldn't see them. So they were like around a corner. He's lying there on his back. His eyes weren't rolled back or anything, but he's like lying there, not really conscious. And she's freaking out. She's like, oh my God, call 911 or whatever. So I call 911. 10 minutes later, paramedics show up. The first thing out of the paramedic's mouth, no shit. The first thing, they looked at her and they said, does he have insurance? Wow. Number two, she's like, yes, I have Blue Cross. And then number two, they said, oh, well, the closest hospital that accepts Blue Cross is 20 miles away, which is, I don't know, 40-minute drive, 30-minute drive. Is that okay with you? Wow. So that kind of stuff doesn't happen in Canada. Somebody is collapsed, paramedics show up, you don't get a bill. They just take you to the hospital and take care of you. So I like that about Canada. That's a huge difference, all right? Number three is food, okay? Americans eat like you would not believe. The amount of food options is off the charts. As an example, when I told you earlier that I did 2 trips, 20 hours, 22 hours, and 20 hours back and forth from Ottawa to Atlanta. So in Canada, you will see a sign that says the next food court, or for you want food, the next exit isn't for like half an hour or an hour away. So if you want food, you better stop here. Well, on my way to Atlanta, every exit, no shit, every exit had food. Didn't matter what, McDonald's, Burger King, food. I go into the grocery stores and the options of stuff that I can buy at the grocery stores, I'm like, whoa, I feel like a kid in a candy store because I have like a gazillion options of pickles if you're into pickles, all kinds of different meats that you can choose from and different cuts. Like for example, I like steak, and there's a cut that we don't have in Canada called a chuck. There's like a tender chuck, which is, it's not good. And then there's like a chuck rib steak. Basically, it's like a cheaper ribeye, but it tastes as good as a ribeye. So I buy that shit all the time. So food, that's number three. Number four is alcohol, okay? You can buy alcohol, not spirits. Spirits, you can get, okay, so in the province or state, some people, the Americans have states, Canadians have provinces. In the province where Ontario and Ottawa is, where Ottawa and Toronto is the state is Ontario. It's government controlled for spirits and international wines. Other stores could sell beer and Canadian wines, but international wines and any spirits are controlled by the government on only their stores, which the hours are pretty good. But in Atlanta, spirits aside, wine and beer or any of those like margarita drinks or whatever, basically 24/7. You can find a store and get fucking alcohol at any time of the day, any day of the week, basically. I'm like, wow. So not used to that. And then number five is you're probably wondering about the safety. Well, this was actually a pleasant surprise. Atlanta, from what you see in the news with shootings and all these other things, yes, that happens. But I will tell you guys, as a Canadian, not once have I felt unsafe here in Atlanta. And this building is in Midtown. It's not too far from downtown, but there's like a lot of activity. There's a lot of businesses, a lot of restaurants. It's like a very vibrant area, and it's not far from other areas. I have an electric scooter that I ride around in the city. It's my own scooter. This thing on paper can go 90 miles an hour, man. Dude, it is so fast. Anyway, maybe I'll do, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a video and show you the scooter that I have. But you can check it out a little bit in my apartment tour video. So the fastest I've been is like 70, 75, and I'm like, if something breaks, right? So I got extra insurance on the scooter because I was concerned for my safety. And I have yet to have any problems with safety here in Atlanta. I don't walk around under bridges at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that. But that was a big surprise to me because I was concerned about safety and hearing about the guns and all these things. So those are the 5 things. Hope you like this video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do more videos on like my travel experiences, what it's like going from Canada to the United States, what it's like living here, whatever. Happy to do that. So I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.